Hi, today we're going to talk about how to deal with distractions and how not to feed some pretty unhelpful thought patterns.
Now, Craig, one of the things that happens when people start practicing mindfulness
Mm.
is that they try to get rid of their thoughts. And in fact, a lot
Mm.
of people think that meditation's about blanking out the mind.
Mm. Well, we try and get rid of a lot of things we don't like. If you're interested, you could just do a little experiment in dealing with distractor influence for a moment. Like just notice an obvious sound in the background where you are. Now, try to block that sound out so that you can't hear it. And if you can still hear that sound, I'd like you to try even harder to block it out, like really make it go away totally.
It's taking a lot of effort, Craig.
Yeah, well, you might notice the harder you try to block something out, of course, the louder it gets, the more obvious it gets. And when we're trying to block something out, our attention actually goes to the thing we're trying to block out.
And that's true of sounds, it's true of thoughts, it's true of feelings, it's true of anything, isn't it?
Yeah, and including the things we find very uncomfortable. Emotions we don't like having, physical pain we're trying to get rid of, thoughts that we find intrusive, etc. The harder we try to get rid of them. You know, you're in an open plan office and you try to focus on what you're doing. And of course, the person behind you is tapping their pen on the desk. And of course, when we're trying to block things out, all of a sudden, that's the only thing our attention goes to.
Even just lying in bed at night trying to get to sleep. Ever tried to stop your thoughts and just push them out of your head?
Yeah.
And it's very much like trying to not think of a pink elephant, isn't it? There's that
That's
thought experiment about not thinking of a pink elephant, about that tall
Yeah,
on a purple rug eating an ice cream.
that's
And
right.
and immediately what we do is we think of a pink elephant and then we try to think of
Mm.
anything else or push that thought out of our
Mm.
mind. And meanwhile, guess what we're focusing on?
And of course, it gets complicated because now there's not only the layer of thinking about whatever we're trying not to think about, but now there's a layer of thinking about why can't I stop thinking about this stuff? And things get very complicated.
Yeah.
So, from a mindfulness perspective, there's no need to block anything out, especially not the thoughts. If they do arise by themselves, then they arise. But what we can do is just to develop an ability to notice them and to choose to be interested in them or not interested in them.
Yeah.
If they're really interesting and useful and relevant at that moment, then give them attention. But we'll probably find that 99.9% of what is going through the mind is either just a waste of time or distracting or irrelevant, and some of it's downright noxious.
Now, it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Mm.
Because it's normal to resist. It's just a very
Mm.
natural thing to resist things that we don't like. You
Mm.
get a single-celled protozoa in a petri dish and put something noxious next to it, and it just moves away from it. I mean,
Mm.
on that fundamental level, all life forms move
Mm.
away from or try to avoid or get rid of things they don't like.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to perhaps work with our thoughts in the way that you were describing, but when we're sitting with pain in the body or discomfort or tiredness or some strong emotion, that becomes a real practice, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And it takes a little bit of time to develop the capacity to do that. But things get easier with practice over time. If it's there, it's there. But what we can do is to choose to engage with it or just leave it alone. And we might find that if, yeah, it's there, but I've got other things to be interested in, then we might find that the other thing just starts to recede into the background.
Mm.
Because what we resist and react to, etc., gets fed with attention.
What we resist persists.
That's right. And until it dominates. And then, of course, what happens is that other things in our life that we want to give our attention to are starved for attention.
And often when we take that resistance out of what's actually happening, the situation itself becomes a lot more manageable, doesn't it?
Yeah. So cultivating a mindful attitude with which we're practicing paying attention in a mindful way is a very helpful thing to do. So there's just a little bit of a tip. And we're all in the human race, so this is relevant for us all. But hopefully that helps you to not only have more mindful meditation, but a more mindful life.